In 1961, John F. Kennedy promised to have a man go to the moon and come safely back to Earth by the end of the 1960s. Then, 1 year before the decade ends in January 1969 at the inauguration of Richard Milhous Nixon, he says this:
"Those who would be our adversaries we invite to a peaceful competition. As we explore the reaches of space, let us go to the new worlds together. Not as new worlds to be conquered, but as a new adventure to be shared."
This inspired an idea to have the flag of the United Nations planted on the moon. They spoke to the people at NASA and surveyed the American people, and they wanted the American flag on the moon. The first lunar landing would be an achievement for all mankind accomplished by the United States. But the concern was, would planting the flag on the moon violate the Outer Space Treaty of 1967? It was decided that it would not be a violation because the United States wasn't taking ownership of the moon. So a committee was formed. They were called the Committee of Symbolic Activities for the First Lunar Landing. They recommended that we plant the flag on the moon and leave it there, and also leave a plaque stating that this was done for the advancement and peace of all mankind. The plaque read, "Here, men from the planet Earth set foot on the moon for the first time in July 1969. We came in peace for all mankind." The committee chose Jack Kinsler, a NASA engineer, to design the flag and flagpole assembly, as well as the plaque that would be left on the moon. Jack tackled this project head on. He thought back to childhood and how his mother's curtains hung, and thought maybe this could be the way that the flag could wave while on the moon where there is no wind. Jack was known as Mr. Fix-It in NASA, so he was the perfect guy to be tasked with this responsibility. Here's a look at the flag assembly before it went to the moon. You've got a flag that cost $5.50. It was 3 foot by 5 foot. They modified it to put a hem across the top so it could hang horizontally. It was important that everything be lightweight and easy to manage because the astronauts had very little mobility in their suits. They also needed to make it the right height because the astronauts couldn't reach their arms over their heads in those suits. It had to be lightweight because of the constraints of the vehicle. Jack also had to make sure that there were no sharp edges, and this was not something that would accidentally damage an astronaut's suit while he was assembling this on the moon. The flag was produced by Annan & Company in New Jersey. The moon's surface was very dense, and they were only able to push the flagpole down a few inches. Somewhere between 2 inches and 7 inches is the range that has been estimated. Still, once it was pushed down, they stepped away and it stayed standing. Scientists later found out that moon dust was different than dust on Earth. Our dust is round on the edges, but the dust on the moon had sharp, pointy edges that kind of pushed against each other as you try to push something into it.
Great. Is the lighting halfway decent?
Yes, indeed. They've got the flag up now, and you can see the stars and stripes on the lunar surface.
Buzz reported that as they took off, the exhaust from the rocket knocked the flag over. So NASA went back to the drawing board for the next mission to figure out a better way to keep the flag in place. So the next mission, Apollo 12, has Pete Conrad and Alan Beam trying to put this flag assembly together, and they had a lot of trouble. They ended up getting the flag in the ground and getting it waving, but it was kind of hanging at an angle. The next mission was Apollo 13, and you guys already saw the Tom Hanks movie.
Flight, I recommend we shut down the reactant valves of the fuel cells.
What the hell good is that gonna do?
Gene, the Odyssey is dying. From my chair here, this is the last option.
Yeah, Jim,
We think that closing the react valves may stop the leak.
Didn't copy that.
do you copy, Jim?
Yes, Houston, we copy. We just lost the moon.
Apollo 14 finally got it right.
Okay, there you go.
This is a CBS News special report. The flight of Apollo 15, sponsored by orange-flavored and new grape-flavored Tang for spacemen and Earth families.
Okay. It's pretty good. Let's just stand there.
And Apollo 16.
Off the ground, on the floor. There we go.
bet.
And then in 1972, Apollo 17 also planted a flag on the moon, and that was the last time a person from this planet set foot on the
I
moon.
understand that there are young people in Houston today, young people from countries all over the world. Probably one of the most significant things we can think about when we think about Apollo is that it has opened for us being the world, a challenge of the future. The promise of that future lies in the young people, not just in America, but the young people all over the world, learning to live and learning to work together.
So 6 flags have been planted on the moon.
6 flags, more fun. Get your Six Flags season pass now for just $64.99.
And from a telescope, 3 of them can be seen still standing based on the shadows that they cast on the moon. From what I understand, every time they landed far enough away from the previous flags that they never saw the other flags on the moon. The scientists assume that the atmosphere has washed the color off of the flags, and the flags are now probably completely white. The flag on the moon has appeared in a lot of memorable pop culture moments in television and film. One of my favorites is the 1971 James Bond film Diamonds Are Forever. In this one, James Bond doesn't go to the moon. He goes to a top secret set where the government is faking the moon landing. In the 1980 film Superman 2, General Zod is up on the moon. And as you know, Neil Armstrong had already walked on the moon, so we did have Neil before Zod.
The closer we come to an atmosphere with only one sun, the more our molecular density gives us unlimited power.
They come from there, a place called Houston.
Then we will go there too, to rule.
The greatest hope against the threat of nuclear war is Superman. Superman 4, The Quest for Peace.
The 1996 film Independence Day shows the flag up on the moon in the opening shot. Here's a fun one from 1997. It's Rocket Man. And this is a wacky movie. Harlan Williams plays like a software engineer who ends up on a mission to Mars, and then he's got to plant the flag, but ends up, well, you'll see.
Spot. Perfect spot right here. Yeah.
Where's that flag? It's coming, Commander.
Uh-oh. You realize what you've just done? I waited my whole life for this moment. To plant a flag on a distant planet. Now I'm on a distant planet, which was the hard part.
I've got another flag.
Believe
a high-flying flag. A proud flag.
Huh?
It's the president.
On Sesame Street in 1998, Slimy, Oscar the Grouch's pet worm, went to the moon.
And now the worm astronauts are planting a flag from WESA, the Worm Air and Space Agency. If any other astronauts come to the moon someday, they will find this flag, placed here today by 5 very brave, very smart, very cute worms.
Of course, everything has been referenced on The Simpsons at one point or another.
For cats and mice everywhere.
Now, the United States is the only country to actually plant a flag on the moon, but other countries have put their flag on the moon in different ways. The first one was Russia. In 1959, they dropped these little ball with their flag engraved on it. An unmanned mission was flying over the moon and shot these out to the surface of the moon. This is the Intuitive Machines Nova C lander. It landed on the moon on February 22nd of this year. And on it is the American flag. So it's the first time that the American flag has been sent to the moon in 50 years. Perhaps the most famous reference to the moon flag is MTV.
Ladies and gentlemen, rock and roll.
Now, of course, there's always a Garbage Pail Kid. There's two names, of course. You got Interstella and First Steph. It's so interesting to read about the men who did this. I was never very good in science class. I don't understand a lot of the stuff I read about this, but I find it so interesting. It was also a very interesting time, the 60s going into the 70s. The 70s, things got a little different. We got Gerald Ford as president, and then Jimmy Carter. And then Jimmy Carter went out on his boat one day and fought a swamp rabbit. And the nation was traumatized. If you want to learn more about it, I'm going to put the video right up here. Otherwise, YouTube says this is what's best for you. So choose what YouTube says or choose what I say. Either way, I'll see you back here tomorrow at 2 o'clock.